Who's got a new microphone and can't be stopped? It's me. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm the Rooted Librarian. My name is Kate. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in August, which I did get a decent amount of reading done. I've been working part-time this summer. So as an academic librarian, some academic librarians get what is called a 9-month contract, which means that theoretically, if you want to, and also most importantly can afford to, you can take summers off. Typically, I have not been able to afford to take summers off completely. I'm hoping for next year. But anyway, I've been working part-time. That means I've had a little extra time to do some reading. And I've just been in a huge reading mood in the past couple of months. So I've just been going gangbusters on the books. And yeah, basically, let's just get into this reading wrap up. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to break up the books by kind of ratings. So I've got my 5-star books, my 4-star books, my 3-star books, and I didn't really have any 2-star books. I'm pretty forgiving with my ratings for the most part. I don't have a ton of 2-star books, but every once in a while I do have one. But let's get started with the 5 stars. So with the 5 stars, I'm going to start, and some of these I mentioned in the last video where I talk about how I've just been obsessed with horror lately, which I was reading an article from the Library Journal, which is just a periodical for folks in the library field. And it was talking about sort of the recent increase in the amount, like the increase in the enjoyment of horror that people have had recently. And it kind of tracks with where we are just with the state of the world at the moment, that when things are really just not great in the world, people tend to turn to horror because it's a way to process your fears, collective fears, in a more kind of safe, low stakes environment, right? Like just reading it through a book. So anyway, it kind of makes sense that I'm joining the rest of the community in diving into some horror. Due to the state of the world. But anyway, so let's get into my 5-star ratings. And the first one I mentioned in the last video, which is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. And I liked it so much. So I listened to this as an audiobook. I liked it so much that I had to get an audiobook trophy, which means that I went to, I think it's like the UK Illumicrate, and I got this special edition. I had to do it. It's so cool. Look at that. I love the sprayed edges. Let me pin this microphone so I can actually show this book. And sorry for the awkwardness. All right. So we've got some bats on the back and it's signed. Oh, I love it. And also look at the artwork. And it's also got the, hold on, brace. Look at the cover of this book. How freaking cool is that? I had to have it. So yeah, I liked this so much that I purchased the Illumicrate special edition from the UK. And I liked it so much because it has social commentary. It also has ghosts. It has a lot of hauntings. It's got a lot of Chinese beliefs and folklore and mythology in it. A lot of Chinese monsters. And I just love that part of it. I love how there was a lot of cultural references in this. It also, so the social commentary part, this takes place during the pandemic. So fair warning there, if you're not prepared to read something that's based in the pandemic, I totally understand. In a way, it was kind of therapeutic for me to do that, but not everyone's at that place at the moment. The main character, Cora, basically starts out the book by witnessing the gruesome death of her sister. By basically it was a hate crime. The death was a hate crime. It was done by a white man, a masked white man, who called them bat eaters before doing the deed, before killing her sister. And I don't want to give away too much, but that's basically how we start off this book. So we start off with a racially charged murder with a hate crime. And the rest of the book sort of explores these themes of a lot of the hatred, racism that was directed towards Asians, Asian Americans during the pandemic, because a lot of people blamed China for starting the pandemic. So this book covers that. It also talks about grief, and I like grief horror. I wouldn't say I like it, but I think it is good for me. It's been good for me to read grief horror to process my own grief. I've had a decent amount of grief in my life, so yeah, I like grief horror for that reason. It helps me process it, just like horror helps people process a lot of their fears and kind of dark emotions. Yeah. Anyway, so this one was just really good. It was emotional. I loved the characters. It made me very sad in some parts, and I just loved the cultural references in this, and I loved the ghosts and the food as well. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. The audiobook was really good. Definitely one of my favorites, and probably one of my favorites of the year. So loved Bat Eater. And then the next one, let's see, I'm doing it old school this time by having it written down. The next book that I read that is a 5-star, well, these aren't exactly in order of when I read them. I'm just gonna go down the list of how I kind of divvied them up by rating. So the next book that's on my list for a 5-star is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. And that one, where did I put that? Right here. So I got this one at Half Price Books, and I wanted to read this because Isabel Cañas is local to the Seattle area, and she was going to be doing a author event with Sadie Hartman, aka Mother Horror, on Instagram, which was August 19th, and I really wanted to go, and I wanted to have at least one book read of hers before I attended the event. And I'm glad I did. I really enjoyed this. This is Haunted House. It is very gothic. It's got, look at this cover. Look at that. She's running away from this haunted house. It's epic. And it was great to hear the author, Isabel Cañas, talk a little bit about like the cover design and what goes into the cover design. She actually has a lot of input on that. And she mentioned that I just liked hearing about her sort of thought process for the cover. But yeah, it's definitely pretty scary in some parts, but it's also very romantic. The main love interest in this book, it's a forbidden romance. The main love interest in this book is, totally green flag. And yeah, it's a little bit of a bittersweet ending, but I loved it. Yeah, I highly recommend this one. I'm excited to read her next book, which is The Possession of Alba Diaz. Right here. So that's her newest release that came out on the 19th, which is what the author event was for. So I'm very excited to dig into this. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Isabel Cañas now. And I also want to pick up The Vampires of El Norte as well. Okay, next on the list, let's refer to my handy dandy notes. The next one is actually a book that I'm going to cheat because I think I finished this in July. But it's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. So I have not had a chance to talk about that book in my videos. So this is my chance to do it. I really enjoyed this one. I also read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and I enjoyed that one, although I enjoyed Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil a lot more. And first of all, it's got sapphic vampires, it's got toxic relationships. They are so messy. The sapphic vampires in this book are so messy, and it is so fun to read. And also unapologetic. A lot of the characters are, they kind of get to vampirism, or they're seduced by vampirism because they're not able to explore who they are comfortably in their own life. So like one of the characters is she married because she had to. It was a time where women had to marry, or basically they would just be considered outcasts. And she got married. She tried to marry on her own terms, but she still married a real misogynistic a-hole. And basically he only saw her as like a vessel for having children, right? So she's not a huge fan of that. And, her mother-in-law is like the worst. Her mother-in-law, oh my God, her mother-in-law is the worst. But when she has her sort of good for her moment, it really is, you really are like, good for you, good for you. Anyway, without ruining too much, I loved the characters in this. I loved the ending. The ending by itself was 5 stars in my book. So yeah, I highly enjoyed Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. It's really popular, and it's popular for a reason. And I think it deserves the hype. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed the ride for this one. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the 4 stars. And one of the 4 stars, let's see. So this one I'm going to pull up because I have to remember the author's name. So this one was a coworker recommendation. And I love, one thing I may not have mentioned in any of my videos so far is that I do love a cozy mystery sometimes. And I think I may have mentioned like one cozy mystery, maybe in my very first video that I really enjoyed that was a favorite of the year. But in general, I really like to read cozy mysteries like before bed. So I like to read them before bed because there's just not a lot of thinking involved. Because sometimes if I read something like, for example, any horror books, or anything that has social commentary or more kind of heavy themes, I will just keep thinking about it and it'll be really hard for me to fall asleep. So that is where cozy mystery comes into play. And my coworker who likes to knit, they recommended The Vampire Knitting Club, which is by Nancy Warren. And I think you can get this on Kindle Unlimited or as an ebook. And yeah, it's super cute. Basically, the premise is that there's a young woman, I think she's in her later 20s, is coming back to England to visit her grandmother. She finds out that her grandmother died, and her grandmother left her this knitting shop. And the best part about this in my book is that the main character does not know how to knit, and she doesn't seem to have any plans to learn how to knit. I mean, she's tried to learn how to knit from her grandmother, but it just never really worked out. And honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of this book because I've also I am trying to learn how to crochet, and it is a process. It is a process. I'm sticking with it, but it is a little bit aggravating sometimes. And so I really appreciate that the author, the main character in this book, the author made them not naturally good at knitting. So basically the reason why it's called the Vampire Knitting Club is that she finds out that her grandma may not be entirely dead, and that her grandma is actually the undead, aka a vampire. And I love that twist. I love that it's the grandma that's the vampire. I think that's hilarious, and I love it. Like, for example, her grandmother suffers from insomnia, and that carries over to when she's a vampire. So she's like up during the day and wandering around. And I feel like that's such an old person thing. Like, I'm old too, by the way. I'm not counting myself as very young here. I sometimes have insomnia. So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit on this book, but I enjoyed it. It's a cute premise. It's a knitting shop in Oxford, England. There's vampires, there's witches, and there's mystery. So what else could you ask for? Also, some romantic interests sprinkled in. So yeah, very cute, perfect before going to bed, just a very light read and enjoyable. So I enjoyed that. The next book that I rated 4 stars is not as light. It is definitely a much more heavy book, is Salt Bones by Jennifer Givon. I'll put the correct pronunciation on the screen if I mess that up. So apologies if I did. But this one, so a little aside here, I now have an Instagram account, which I basically just set up so I could tag this small local business because I wasn't sure how to do that in YouTube. And now it's become a little bit more of like a thing. Like I kind of got caught up in posting and getting followers and things like that, but I'm trying to calm down a little bit. But anyway, I have an Instagram now, and I posted a review on Instagram as well. But yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. The premise is that the main character, she's a butcher, and she is a character that is Latina and also indigenous. So, and it takes place on the Mexicali border, so the Mexican-California border. And it's a very unique sort of cultural composition there, where there are folks that are Latin, indigenous, a lot of mix, and there's also remnants of colonization, right? So there's this very rich white family that is profiting off of the land that they stole. They also have like I think a meat business as well. So the main character is sort of competing with this bigger business for her own butcher business, and she butchers animals in a way that is very cultural. So she learned it from her father. So it's indigenous practice, which I thought was interesting. It was a little slow to get into Salt Bones I didn't find myself really invested until maybe 30 to 40% into the book. I will say that I read it in one sitting though. I just read it in an afternoon. It was what I did that afternoon. Yeah, and it was a worthwhile read. Like I said, it takes a little while to get into. You start getting, things start ramping up about 30 to 40% in. What I really liked about it is I really liked the sort of the discussion of generational trauma, the discussion of environmental damage from colonization, from settler colonialism, the discussion of missing and murdered Latina and Indigenous women. That's a heavy, heavy theme in this book, so trigger warnings there. Because in the book, the main character, her sister, went missing when she was around, teenage years, and her family never knew exactly what happened to her sister. So that's kind of an old mystery in her family. And then her daughter goes missing. So really the book is just her frantic search for her daughter. And meanwhile, she's getting haunted by horse-headed woman, which is local folklore. And the horse-headed woman is a wronged woman type character, and basically seduces men with her long, beautiful hair. They see her from the back and they're like, wow, beautiful. And they'll approach her and then she'll turn around and it is like a horse skeleton. It's pretty gruesome and scary. And I love that. I love that part of the book. And I liked how the author weaves that into the character's story and how she's, her frantic search for her daughter and how she keeps seeing horse-headed woman. And she's not sure if horse-headed woman is just haunting her or if horse-headed woman is trying to tell her something about her daughter. So anyway, I think it's worth reading. I'm glad that I read it, and I want to read other things by that author. So the next book is The Glittering Edge by Alyssa Villar. And this one, how did I even find out about this book? So this one is like a young adult, kind of witchy. It's like a CW show, basically, like a witchy CW show. And, which is not to say that's a bad thing. I enjoy a CW show every once in a while. And The Glittering Edge is very much a CW show. It's teens, it's young adults, it's like small town drama. There are two families that have hated each other for years. There's sort of like forbidden romance. There's witchy stuff. There's a curse. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to read. I enjoyed it. I will probably check out the next book in the series. I don't remember if that's out yet. I'll have to check. If it is, I will put it up on the screen or maybe when it's releasing. But yeah, I would follow along in the series. I thought it was interesting and a fun time. And yeah, sometimes you just need to turn your brain off when you're reading, and that's definitely a good book for turning your brain off. The next one that I read is Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. And this one, what a funny little romp this was. This one, I guess, it kind of defies genre categorization. It's like space, horror, campy horror, found family. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this book. It's a ridiculous book, but I don't know, if you enjoy a little bit of campy horror, if you enjoy found family, especially a talking ship. I know, like, I love talking ships. I love ships as like a home base in stories, like I don't know, like people finding family on a spaceship. Like, I love it. Like the show Firefly, for example. I have always really enjoyed that show. So I enjoyed the talking, like the ship that has a personality. There's also like a little bit of an AI romance. Like, it's adorable. It's adorable. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's also, we've got some queer representation in this book. So yeah, I think it's a fun romp. I would definitely say don't expect this book to take itself super seriously, but if you're cool with that, which I was cool with that, then you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I liked Of Monsters and Mainframes. In fact, I think I gave that a 4.5, so a very high 4. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. The next book that I read is The Haunting of Hill House. That's a 4-star, by Shirley Jackson. And this one I talked a lot about in the last video where I was talking about horror books. And so I won't go into it into too much depth, but I enjoyed this one. It's a classic. It's a classic horror book. And I do like Shirley Jackson. I think I'm going to read more by her. There's definitely some recommendations out there of which books of hers to read first. So I'm definitely going to be doing that. I like The Haunting of Hill House as like a haunted house story, as well as like a psychological thriller, a psychological horror where you really don't know exactly what's going on. It's like the unreliable narrator type story. And I really appreciated how Shirley Jackson did that. I thought she did that really well. The next 4-star is Little Eve by Catriona Ward. This one I also talked about in the last video, so I won't dive into too much, but it's a cult horror. There's a cult-like family, the children of Alt Nahara. It takes place in this remote island on Scotland. There's a mass murder of this cultish family, and basically you're trying to figure out what happened, how they all died. The vibes are immaculate. Yeah, I highly recommend. I can see why this one is a recommended book. I think I got this recommendation from Mother Horror on Instagram. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I want to check out other Catriona Ward books. I think she's coming out with a new release soon. I will put it up on the screen as well. So I will definitely be checking that out. I also want to read some of her other backlog. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. The next 4-star, and this one was kind of like a high 3, but I just kind of pushed it into 4 stars because I keep thinking about it. And it's The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Khaw. And this one, yeah, it's dark academia, but like you've never read it before. It really leans into the dark academia. There's like a little bit of a romance, but not really. There's like sapphic undertone. There's like, yeah, some sapphic undertones. There's basically like fluid sexuality going on, which is cool to see. It is a horror. It is kind of cosmic horror. It is body horror. There's just a lot of effed up things that happen in this book where you're just like, that is effed up. But the way that the author writes it is it's almost like poetic. It's just, yeah, like the gore is very poetic. And I had to give it a higher rating because of that. And I just keep thinking about some of the imagery. You will never look at figs and wasps the same again. It's a recurring theme and motif in this book, which is interesting. I think there were definitely some parts where I was kind of like, what's going on? Or kind of, it's definitely like a, what did I just read kind of book. There's not really like a satisfying conclusion, I would say. Yeah, anyway, if you like body horror, if you like cosmic horror, if you like cannibalistic teachers, faculty, if you like your academia particularly dark, then this one would be for you. Yeah, I can't stop thinking about it. So I feel like, yeah, definitely a 4-star read for me. Okay, now we're going to move into the 3 stars, the books that I enjoyed, but wouldn't say that I would necessarily continue with if they're part of a series, or that I would buy, to have like a physical copy. So the first one is Celestial Banquet by Rosalie Lim. And this one, where did I hear about this one? It might be from, I think her channel's called Brittany Reads. If it's not, I will put the correct name on the screen. I think I heard about it from her, and I added it to my list because it looked really cute. It's basically a young woman who is a chef. She makes noodles, like really, really good, well-renowned noodles in this particular region. And basically the world building in this book is that there are these gods, these kind of local gods, and they have basically a cooking competition, and people come and cook. And if you win the competition, which means that you have to please all the gods with your food, as well as their mythical animal companions, which I thought was a really cute detail, then you win in like a peach of immortality, basically. And you can either sell it for a lot of money, or you can eat it, and I think it prolongs your life. And you basically have to have a smaller local god or local deity as your sponsor. So yeah, interesting premise, fun premise, very much a competition type book. And there was a romance triangle a love triangle, excuse me, which is not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of love triangles for the most part. So I didn't love it for that. It was a fun time. I wouldn't say it's like particularly memorable, unfortunately, but yeah, if you want something kind of quick and easy to read, if you want a little competition, if you want some like fun food, cooking, fiction, then this one would be a good one for you. So yeah, Celestial Banquet. The next one that I rated 3 stars is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. And I know this one is a fairly beloved book by a lot of horror fans, and I can see why. It's very good, campy fun. It's also legitimately horrifying in some parts. Like there's some parts that I still think about where I'm just like, ugh, like it, disgusting, horrifying parts. I think for me, and I talked about this book in the previous video as well, it didn't quite land for me in a couple of parts, but I still enjoyed the overall premise of the book. I enjoyed the friendship between the two kind of main characters, one of them being the possessed character, and kind of exorcism through the power of friendship. I thought that was cute. But yeah, I think there were just some parts of the book, especially the depictions of racism in the 1980s in Charleston, that it didn't quite land for me. But I will say that, yeah, Grady Hendrix, I haven't done a ton of research about him, but I'm guessing that he has a background in sort of being raised in a very religious community and religious household. So he really does cover that very well. That kind of like Southern, I'm not sure if it's Baptist, but like Southern Protestant type, kind of satanic panic vibe of the South. He does that, of some parts of the South. He does that very well. It's clearly a topic that is near and dear to him. So, okay, the next book that I rated 3 stars is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I buddy read this with my partner, and we both agreed that it was enjoyable. It wasn't particularly memorable. I enjoyed the sarcastic murder bot. I enjoyed their parts. I enjoyed how socially awkward they were. And yeah, it's very cute. It's kind of like almost like a cozy sci-fi, if you want to put it in a genre. Yeah, and that's probably how it's marketed too. But yeah, cozy sci-fi. I will probably read the second book in the series because they're not terribly long. They're very short books. And there's a part that is brought up in the first book that I think is going to be elaborated on more in the second book. And that's kind of interesting to me. And I bought the book. I have it down on the shelf. I don't really want to get it right now. But I bought kind of like a compilation of, I think, the first 2 stories together. So I probably will read the second book at some point. But I'm not in a huge rush. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And I do want to watch the show as well with Alexander Skarsgård. That's right. I think it's Alexander Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgårds, which I think is on Apple TV. Anyway, so the next 3-star is Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. And this one, clearly I have like a thing for some cozy sci-fi, or at least that's been a theme this month, because this is also kind of cozy sci-fi, but cozy mystery sci-fi. So the premise is that there is kind of a ship full of humans that have been traveling for thousands of years. They're trying to find a new home, I think. And in order to keep people kind of alive, instead of doing, cryogenics, like a cryo chamber where people go to sleep for many, many years, instead they just sort of keep people's memories in these memory books in the library, the ship's library, which was kind of a fun premise. And basically when your body dies, you get your mind uploaded to a new body. And I think you basically keep the same body, or your body is configured the same every single time. So you have the same sort of aches and pains, the same kind of general death, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, you basically get rebooted into the same body over and over and over again. And we follow the main character, who is a detective. They don't really have like a police force on this ship. It's a little bit utopian in that regard, where it's a little bit more like restorative justice. If you've heard of that, if you've heard of that phrase, it's more restorative justice. So there's detectives, they kind of figure out what happened, and then they try to basically mitigate the harm caused, and they try to figure out how to, like resolve things with the victims of the crime as well as the perpetrators in a way that is more restorative rather than just putting people into jail, which has proven to not be very effective, and it is in fact pretty detrimental to society as a whole. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I wouldn't say it was like a particularly memorable book, but I enjoyed it. And I think it was a good cozy mystery to read before bed. And I probably will check out other books in the series. I think it's going to be part of a series. I think there's a second book coming out. I probably will check it out, but I'm not in like a huge rush for that one either. All right, so those are all the books that I read in August. It's quite the exhaustive list, so thanks for hanging out until the end. If you have any recommendations, or if you have read any of the books that I've talked about and you want to share about it, or if you're planning to read them, please let me know. I would love to engage with folks in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye!